Let's begin by telling you that the Nigeria Labour Congress has confirmed that its national office in Abuja was invaded by security operatives on Wednesday night. Now, according to the NLC spokesperson, the operatives arrested security guards, forcibly gained access to the offices, and stole hundreds of books and publications. The NLC has condemned the invasion as illegal and a violation of democratic principles, demanding an international inquiry and the return of stolen materials. This incident occurred just hours after the NLC's National Executive Council meeting, where members criticized the heavy-handed handling of protesters during the #EndBadGovernance protests. The NLC has directed staff to stay away from the office until further notice and warned of potential industrial action if the harassment continues. Now, our correspondent, Idong Joseph, is live in Abuja and on standby to give us more reports on this. Good afternoon, Idong Joseph. Could you please describe the scene at the NLC headquarters during the raid, and can you provide details on how the security personnel conducted this operation?
Okay, thank you. We are right here at the NLC headquarters in Abuja here, and my camera operator will now just pan his camera so you can have a view of what the office that was invaded yesterday look like now. And you can see that. But though getting here, we try to conduct our own personal investigation to know actually what happened yesterday. And one of the security guys we met on ground, specifically the one that was taken around by the alleged DSS operatives who had come here yesterday, told us that when they came here, they asked specifically for somebody, which is a foreign national, in his word, a white guy. Where is that white guy? That was what he said was asked, contrary to the statement that the NLC had issued this morning, saying that it was its office. And this foreign national, when we asked further, we were made to understand that he's the occupant of this very office where I am standing now. That's it's probably they've gone to his house and they didn't see him, and that led them to coming to where his office here. And when they could not find him, they had to take away several items from here.
Joseph, we understand that some items were also taken from the NLC headquarters. They mentioned that a lot of books were taken. What specific items were taken during the raid, and how has the union been affected by the loss of these materials?
Okay, this very facility is being owned by the Nigerian Labour Congress, yes, but there are several offices right in here. And this very one, what was taken out of here, according to the security guy here, he told us that the whole books here were taken out. Printing machine was taken, and also photocopying machine and other stationaries, that nothing was left here. And even from what you can see from the video my camera guy panned around, you see that the office is empty. And we were made to understand that this very office is it's a bookshop, right? It's a bookshop, and people come here to also make photocopy, print, and also scan documents in this very office. And for now, nothing is left just for the furnitures here.
All right, Adon, could you help us pan the camera around again so we can see what the wreckage that was done is?
Why did you do that?
While that is going on, I would also like to find out if there has been any statement or any responses from the security agencies involved in the raid, and what exact reasons have they given for this action?
Okay, when the NLC released its statement condemning the acts, we had hoped that security operatives would have also released their statements, either claiming the attack or denying that allegation. But we've not seen any for now. But as the day progresses, we hope that they will come out and either lay claim to these allegations or say or deny it. But for now, there's no statement from any security agency.
All right. Thank you so much, Idong Joseph. We're definitely going to keep the viewers updated on what's going on in Abuja and if at all there's any follow-up statement made regarding the wreckage. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
Now, the Kaduna State Security Council has relaxed the 24-hour curfew earlier imposed on Kaduna and Zaria towns and environs. Now, according to a statement released by the Commissioner, Ministry of Internal Security and Home Affairs, Kaduna State, Samuel Aruwan, the curfew will now be in effect from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. daily. This implies that citizens may move freely and carry out their legitimate activities between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. and will revert to the curfew from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. The Kaduna State Security Council reiterates it will be decisive in confronting actions which may lead to a breakdown of law and order during periods of movement as well as restriction. Now, similarly, the Plateau State government has further relaxed the curfew effective on Thursday, August 8, 2024. Residents are now permitted to move freely for their lawful activities from 12 noon to 6 p.m. daily until further notice. The state governor, Barrister Caleb Manasseh Mutfwang, in consultation with security agencies, has authorized this relaxation. He assured the public that the government will continue to make decisions in the best interest of the people. Now, Governor Mutfwang commended the public for their peaceful conduct during the curfew and appealed for continued cooperation with security agencies to ensure the safety and the security of the state. All right, we have Emmanuel Bagudu, who is live in the north, to give us the update regarding the curfew, specifically in Kaduna State. Thank you so much, Emmanuel Bagudu, for joining us. Can you give us an update on the curfew and how people are reacting to it?
The residents of Kaduna State are very happy. They seem relaxed. And one very interesting fact about the relaxation of this curfew is that there is a withdrawal of the presence of security officials on the streets, on major streets of Kaduna. Right now, I'm just standing by the refinery junction, the Kaduna refinery just behind me. Before now, here used to be, there used to be heavy presence of security, armored patrol vehicles, both for military and police, but it's no longer there. So the citizens are now feeling so free; they can breathe, not like yesterday and the day before yesterday where they were locked down. So it was like it's like freeing a bed. So the atmosphere is back to life, and they're all happy about it.
Right. And how long would we say that this will persist for? Is it for the whole duration of the supposed protest, or is it going to last longer than that?
Well, I think this withdrawal is a step-by-step thing. This is the first step from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So we expect that after 2 days again, when things are being monitored, the curfew may be relaxed completely. So for now, there's still curfew, but of course, we call it restriction of movement, which is just for between 8 a.m. and then 6 p.m. And this may continue up to the day 10, probably, of the End Bad Governance, hashtag End Bad Governance protest. So a lot of residents are still in their homes. The roads are still scanty because of the warnings the government is making about people who may likely come out to cause mayhem, all in the name of protest. So they are still in their homes. A lot of residents are still in their homes. Movements are still, unlike before the protest and the attacks that led to the curfew. So everyone is still at home. Just few people just came out to monitor the situation. But as time goes on, it is hoped that they will get used to the situation and then start living their normal lives right here in Kaduna.
All right, Emmanuel Bagudu giving us an update from Kaduna State with a relaxed curfew. Thank you so much once again. Now let's head to River State, where we understand that protesters seem not to have commenced day 8 of the ongoing nationwide peaceful protest against bad governance and hunger in Nigeria due to invasion of the protest on day 7 in Port Harcourt. Now recall that the protesters were invaded with anti-protesters on day 7 that led to fracas between both factions in the state. The anti-protesters can be seen stationed at the Federal Secretariat along Aba Road, Port Harcourt, on Thursday morning as police takes over the Pleasure Park along same route where the protesters always converge to begin their protest. Now, to further discuss this, we're being joined by our correspondent, Austin Azu, who is currently standing by in Port Harcourt in Rivers State capital. Thank you so much, Austin, for joining us. What is the update regarding the protest? This is supposed to be day 8, but we're not seeing much movement, much convergence from the people, and it's all over. But what is the situation there in Rivers State?
First
Austin Azu, can you hear me?
This morning, it's expected that the protesters ought to have been out by now, but due to what happened yesterday, yeah, I can hear you.
Go ahead,
but due
please.
to what happened yesterday, they were actually, distracted by the invasion of suspected thugs who invaded them yesterday. This morning we went to the leisure park where they were supposed to start from. So we saw the presence of security personnel on the ground there, but we didn't see any protesters, coming out to begin the protest this morning. However, we further moved further to the Federal Secretariat where we saw a large number of youths who we believed to have been, anti-protesters, because they claim that they don't want to see anybody, exceeding the road or bypassing that designated area, that they want to forestall anyone who will come and, cause mayhem here in the state capital. Of course, if you can see behind me, if you're to be yesterday, you will see most of the vehicles that are moving in and out. Definitely, you will see, a leaflet on them. Those leaflets on them will definitely, send a message like these people are part of the protesters. But today now you can hardly see any moving vehicle that has a leaflet on it. So obviously we are still waiting, believing that before now till maybe 3 p.m. we might see the other protesters who will come out to continue the 8 of the protest here in Rivers State.
All right, and so far, has there been any response from the security agencies regarding the counterattack of the anti-protesters against the protesters? Have the security agencies said anything about it?
Yes, like what the CP said yesterday when he went to the Federal Secretariat to, calm down the situation yesterday. So this morning, of course, the security personnel are still stationed at the Federal Secretariat. So no official statement here, but from the body language of the place at the venue of the convergence place at the Federal Secretariat, it suggests the fact that everybody has their right to express themselves, to protest. But these other people who are anti-protesters have ensured that nobody goes beyond that particular area to go and come out to stage the protest. And surprisingly, if you look at the faces of these anti-protesters, one would be scared to look at their faces, because most of them have taken hard drugs. Some of them are already just started misbehaving. So by many of you stepping down from your vehicle or coming there, of course you just feel like a goat that enters the lion's den. So everybody will just want to come and give you unnecessary attention. So, but at the moment, it suggests the police are maintaining peace and order in that particular area. But the anti-protesters are not taking it likely for anyone who will move from that leisure park down to government house to come and register their grievances. Unlike what we had in the other days, you had so many people coming from different angles down to the government house here to come and register their grievances. So it's going to be very difficult for the protesters to come out today to begin their day 8 because of what they experienced yesterday and what is currently ongoing here in the state capital.
All right. Thank you so much, Austin Azu, for giving us the update from Rivers State. All right. We have more on the end bad governance protest coming shortly after the break. But right now, we're going on a short break. And when we come back, more stories. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us on the news. We're still talking about the hashtag End Bad Governance protest. And meanwhile, an attack on News Central journalists during a live coverage of the protest in Lagos has sparked widespread reactions, both online and offline. Now, many are calling for greater respect for the press in their professional duties, and there is mounting pressure on the police to hold those responsible for the attack accountable. Earlier on, the Executive Director, Media Career Development Network, Lekan Otufoduri, spoke more on harassment of journalists while carrying out their duties.
Police media relations meetings, I've seen even at the highest level of military engagement where they try to have some parley to understand that you are doing your duty, we are doing our duty. How can we ensure that we do not obstruct ourselves? But it's important to reinstate that with this kind of things. Ordinarily, you think those eras have gone, but when things like this happen, we need to sit down, we need to talk to ourselves, we need to let them understand that our role is important. Our job is to inform, to educate, and let people know what is really happening so that even they can know how to take the right decision. So it's very important, and I'm aware that there are media NGOs, there are groups, the unions that are also trying to find. I mean, I've just seen that the managing director of News Central has gone to report that kind of incident. That's the kind of engagement that is necessary so that they can't claim that they are not aware of this. But more importantly, beyond the military officers, the people down the line who don't understand what we are talking about need to be properly schooled about why they should exercise more restraint in that kind of situation.
And now to join us to discuss more on this, we now have a policy implementation consultant, Taiwo Osoi. Thank you so much, Taiwo, for joining us, and good afternoon.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
It's a pleasure. Now, Taiwo, what's your take on the government's decision to arrest the organizers of the protest and the sponsors, especially of the protest, especially those who are in diaspora, and freeze their accounts? What do you think of that?
Well, it's unfortunate and preposterous that we have such situation happening today, spanning from yesterday and other previous days, after the president had once said that people should dialogue and leave the street instead of protesting. So the question that will be asked in the real sense will be, is this the sort of dialogue the president has been requesting from the people through freezing accounts, arresting leaders of protesters and what have you? So it only shows that, and it only re-echoes what the citizens are saying, that the statement of the president does not span any sort of hope, but it's more of like a threat in the real sense of it. You said, as a GCFR of the country, you said protesters should come to the negotiation table. And days after, we are seeing protesters being arrested, protesters being accounts being frozen, and what have you. So it's that there's a disconnect between what the president is saying and what is happening in the real sense of it. Having said that, it is actually very dangerous. Why I'm saying it is because it's dangerous because this protest was initially announced, and government had a bit of ample time to actually take very clear view of it. Well, many people may say that the protest has been hijacked by some miscreants and some criminal element, which is true, which we've seen in some parts of the north. However, if we have seen those such happenings, then it is sad that the DSS, who had once announced a week before the protest that they were perceived hijackers of this protest, did not do anything, which we're supposed to have done, arrest people. It was even alleged by the DSS at that time, before the protest even started, that there were some international sponsors who were actually on the verge of taking over government and what have you. The DSS did not take any arrest, any immediate proactive step in that measure. Now it is reactionary. We see them invading NLC offices and what have you. Well, it only shows that we have a disconnect between what the government says and what the government does.
And how would you say, or in your opinion, how do you think that this crackdown on organizers, because we've been talking about democracy for the longest time, how would this affect the future of political dissent and free speech in the country, especially when it comes to the implementation on the democratic institution?
Well, unfortunately, we are going backwards in our democracy, and this is going to create a bit of agitation amongst the populace in the real sense of it. We're going to have a lot of legal implications on this. We're going to have a lot of back and forth in the judiciary. A lot of cases have been submitted, a lot of counter cases and what have you. So that's on one end. But at the same time, the implication is going to be that people would still speak. There will still be need for freedom of speech. And while people will speak, what is going to be more enormous, which is very dangerous, is the fact that if this continued hunger persists for a longer period, a more critical protest might even happen, and this is where the problem may begin, and that is my fear for this government and for this current country, because it might be beyond what this current happening, and that is my fear. I'm afraid that any other protest may even go even haywire than what we have currently today, because it continues to crack down people. People are hungry. People are angry. There is no future of promise. The hope is bleak, and everything is happening in the same scene. And then you expect people to keep quiet. That is not going to happen. Certainly, it's not going to happen. I would advise the government that people who have been arrested should be immediately released if there is no any criminal attachment to what they've done. Accounts which have been frozen, if they do not have any connection with any misnomer or any hijacking of government or whatever, they should be immediately unfrozen. And then for those who have been culpable in terms of any criminal element towards this protest, should be properly prosecuted. But unfortunately, we're going to have a reverse of this situation. We're going to have innocent Nigerians arrested, being in detention, nothing is happening, accounts going to be frozen, and people who are even culpable, who are the criminal elements in this protest, will be released. If some of them have not even been released, that's the unfortunate fact. So they'll be released in no time, in a very short period of time, and then the innocent Nigerians who actually protested against the end bad governance would actually be in detention. That's the ironical part of it. And then why do you break trust? Then it still goes back to what I said earlier. There's a disconnect between what the government is saying and what the government is doing.
Okay, very quickly, Ty, we're talking about the irony in the entire situation. What legal or constitutional implications do you think that this will have from the government's action spanning to the individual reaction? How would this set a precedent for future treatment of political opponents or activists or even citizens?
Well, currently the antecedent is not right. It's not good. We can't deny that fact. But if you say that what's the legal implication and the constitutional implication, it even goes beyond those two factors. What is the economic implication? Right now, we have a lot of international persons being arrested amidst the connection to the waving of the Russian flag, which is actually a total insubordination and a breach of Nigerian sovereignty in the recent of it. But having said that, this will also create an economic drawback in our current situation, because we're going to have a lot of international organizations, we're going to have international companies withdrawing their participation in the country, because who knows who is going to be arrested in the next time? Nobody is assured of it. Who knows the account that is going to be frozen because someone spoke about the end bad governance protest. So who knows? So a lot of things is going to be affected. But having said that, the country must actually still abide by the rule of law. The Constitution states explicitly that citizens have the right to hear their views. It is their constitutional right to protest. It is for the government to find criminal elements who would want to hijack this protest, who have any criminal intention and tendencies, to pick them up, arrest them, and prosecute them. But if that is not done, if innocent Nigerians who are advocating for a good country, if innocent Nigerians who are protesting for a better country, if good-meaning citizens who are protesting against bad governance are being arrested in all over the country, then it's going to create a situation where people would actually come out and spurn out their anger in a more dangerous path, which is even more fearful that the government do not understand today. Look at the attack on pressmen. Look at the attack on your own newsmen on ground in Ojota. Look at the attack on different newsmen in different states of the federation. Look at the attacks on innocent protesters. I tell you this is a dangerous This is a dangerous plight, and this is a dangerous approach by the government. And if this is not meddled down in the shortest period of time, we might have a critical situation beyond our hands.
All right, Taiwo Sonyi, Policy Implementation Consultant, thank you so much for joining us and giving your 2 cents on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Meanwhile, 8 miners in Plateau State have been remanded in the Young People's Home for their involvement in the civil unrest that led to the 24-hour curfew in Plateau State on Sunday. Justice Eric Narom also remanded 18 adults at the Jos Correctional Center for the same crime. News Central's Chizoba Anyonwe tells us more.
It all began Sunday when a group of youths hijacked the peaceful protest of the hashtag End Bad Governance in Nigeria, escalating to the extent of imposing a 24-hour curfew on Jos Bukuru Metropolis. The state government prosecuted the arrested suspects allegedly said to be behind the incident on Sunday and Monday in the Bauchi and Zololo Junction areas of Jos. The Chief State Counsel spoke on the incident.
You are well aware that there is a curfew and there was disobedience of the said curfew yesterday, and the police went, because there was information, the police went and arrested these people violating the curfew because they are meant to stay indoors, and some of them were protesting, disturbing people, and it's just not one person, but so many of them. That's why we charge them for conspiracy.
While urging residents of Plateau to remain law-abiding, the State Commissioner for Information says government will not give in to any form of criminality.
They pleaded not guilty. So as a state that follows the law, that works within the ambit of the law, we're going to toe this path until whether they are proven guilty or otherwise. And instead of just taking the laws into our hands, we toe the path of law, which is the right way to go. And they've been arraigned before this magistrate court.
Apart from defiance of the 24-hour curfew, the 4-count charge leveled against these suspects include criminal conspiracy, membership of unlawful assembly, disturbance of public peace, and disturbance of public order. Justice Eric Narom of Magistrate Courts 8 and 9 adjourned the case to September 19 for further hearing. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anyonwe.
And now stakeholders in Nigeria's education sector have called on state governments across the country to establish vocational training institutes to their states, saying this will help address the issue of youth restiveness and irregular migration among youths outside the country. This was during a hearing of the House of Representatives Committee on Federal Polytechnics and Higher Technical Education in a bid to enact laws seeking to create vocational training centers in Kano and the National Commission for Polytechnics. Idong Joseph completes the report.
Stakeholders' inputs are a proposal to establish a vocational and entrepreneur institute in Oshodi in Lagos State, a federal vocational and skills acquisition college, Yankaba, in Kano State, and the creation of a National Polytechnics Commission. Stakeholders, while laying emphasis on the need to properly streamline vocational skills in the nation's educational system, urge state governments to follow suit with Kano and Lagos, saying it will help bridge unemployment.
There are a lot of opportunities locally and globally for skills, but Nigerian youth are there roaming about, crossing the Sahara with a lot of danger, dying in the Mediterranean Sea. So this vocational training institutes is a very positive move, and I am very hopeful that other states will also require to have their own, because this can be seen as another layer of tertiary TVET education.
We all know what has happened in Kano last week, the hijacked protest. This is caused by a lot of poverty and unemployment, and this youth really need our help. So in this point, we see that this is going to go a long way in terms of addressing this poverty and reducing unemployment.
Also, expressing concerns on discrimination that polytechnic lecturers face, they say the creation of a commission will help address degree dichotomy and discrimination.
I was chief lecturer in Kaduna Polytechnic for 5 years, served as director of a college, served as deputy rector, served as acting rector,
I went to the university, newly established university then, Federal University Dutema, and they reverted me back to senior lecturer. Even this dichotomy and discrimination, even lecturers are not safe.
The commission, if established, I believe will come up with the policies and systems where our graduates will no longer be looking at the substandard graduates of our nation, in our nation.
Lawmakers present also assured that the National Polytechnics Commission, when established, will maintain a high standard in its regulatory and monitoring exercise across the country. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idonko Joseph.
The now emerging world of artificial intelligence will not drive humans out of job, but enhance efficiency in the workplace and life in general. This was stated by Chinese AI expert Ma Lizhu while speaking with some Nigerian journalists on a visit to China. We have more on this story in the next report.
Passing day, artificial intelligence continues to grow in popularity as an inevitable part of living in today's world. With this comes various concerns on its impact on jobs and employment. While that worry engages the minds of many in Nigeria and the rest of Africa in particular, more developed societies keep expanding their frontiers in enhancing human performance through electronic means. In this establishment in Nansha, Guangzhou district of China, tools that will aid human activities are being developed.
The following is an analysis of the student's writing ability, as well as comments and specific suggestions.
She also used a device to book flight tickets real time and also to confirm the weather of a chosen destination, all within seconds. Alan, an interpreter, had expressed concern that people like him may be out of job in few years to come. As AI gets more popular, Ms. Zhou says that may not necessarily be so.
AI can only replace basic jobs. For example, only the translation, but some emotion, the AI cannot do translation by emotion. And also we need the translator to help them when they're doing the research, when they're doing the improve. They also need this high-tech people to come to their area to help them to improve their product. So it's not who is replaced, but we are improving together.
A young journalist who was at the demonstration is excited on how artificial intelligence is making her job easier.
It's to help us edit our videos, edit our passages, help us to prepare something we need for an interview, for a meeting, or help us to organize our schedule. So, and also when we want to edit a video, we can use it to help us to translate.
In this session, the resource person demonstrates AI tools that aid children in learning. She, however, believes that contrary as may be thought, AI will not breed lazy learning.
Our marking technology is to be able to correct some homework. Such a technology has been approved by the state. In the CET4 and CET6 of the high school entrance examination and the college entrance examination,
China is in the front row in global technological advancement. How this will benefit other countries and make the world better without deepening the challenge of unemployment is the next area of focus.
Coming up on the news, tight security in Kenya ahead of new demonstrations. We'll bring you details after the break. Many thanks for staying with us on the news. Now, 4 senior African politicians from Djibouti, Kenya, Madagascar and Mauritius have thrown their hat into the ring to take over the African Union's top post. The pan-continental body, which has 55 member states, will hold elections at its summit in February 2025 to choose a successor to Moussa Faki Mahamat as chair of the African Union Commission. This year, the role is reserved for a representative from East Africa to replace Faki, a veteran politician from Chad who has served since 2017. The African Union issued a statement listing the 4 candidates as Mahmoud Ali Yusuf of Djibouti, Raila Odinga of Kenya, Richard Rajamandrato of Madagascar, and Anil Gayan of Mauritius. Now to East Africa, where Kenyan police patrolled the streets of the capital, Nairobi, on Thursday. Roadblocks were set up on major arteries and many shops were shut ahead of planned new anti-government protests. The East African nation has been rocked by weeks of sometimes deadly demonstrations, mostly led by young Gen Z Kenyans, against President William Ruto's 2-year-old administration. Now, the nation's acting police chief had warned that criminals intended to infiltrate the demonstrations and said people should not trespass to avoid protected areas such as the main international airport and State House, the president's official residence. Now to World Rap. Anti-racist demonstrators march in Birmingham after rallying in front of a center for migrants and refugees to oppose days of far-right violence that have UK police on high alert. The protesters rallied outside a refugee and migrant center, ready to defend against a far-right protest that never materialized. It was anti-racism and anti-fascist counter-protesters who were out in greater numbers, holding rallies in cities up and down England, including London, Birmingham, Bristol, Liverpool, Newcastle, chanting "Refugees are welcome here" and "Whose street? Our street."
This protest, this counter demonstration, it was peaceful. We're here to say that we're kicking fascists off the streets. We're standing up for our communities. It's not to incite violence or hatred. It's to come together. And I think people need to understand, if you're coming to protest against anti-fascism, against anti-racism, you need to understand it's not about violence. That's what the fascists want. They use violence because that's the only thing they have.
So today we were just at a protest outside a refugee centre because there was supposed to be a demonstration by the EDL and they were going to attack this centre based on the fact that it's an immigration centre. And so the community came out today to help protect the refugees here and let them know that they're welcome and that we wouldn't allow these.
Now for more on this, I'm joined by our international correspondent, AIA Hagen. Hello, AIA, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, thanks for joining us. Could you give us an idea of what it was like across England as of last night?
Well, we initially thought there was about 100 protests that were planned by the EDL and other members of the far-right movement, other groups that had got together there. But it seemed that those protests didn't materialize, or where they did, the far-right were completely outnumbered by anti-racist and anti-fascist peaceful protesters who turned out to protect places like immigration officers, like the people in your vox pop said there, and just basically to show local communities that they didn't have to be afraid and that they were going to stand up to the far right. So it was a largely peaceful night last night, to be honest. In Walthamstow in North London, you had about 10,000 people turning out for anti-racist protests, and they were largely peaceful. They passed off without incident. In Liverpool, you had hundreds of people gathering outside asylum services offices as well. In North Finchley, you had a huge demonstration which passed without incident. In Bristol as well, about 1,500 anti-racist protesters and about 1,000 of them in Newcastle upon Tyne. So this time yesterday was a very different feeling. We were very, very concerned that there could be hundreds of protests up and down the country, which could see possibly, potentially, the worst night of violence so far. Actually, it was the complete opposite of that.
And so far, what have been the reactions from both government officials and the police chiefs as of today?
Well, the Prime Minister has said today that although he is pleased with what happened last night, and he's putting that down to communities coming together as well as police forces up and down the country doing what they should be doing best, He is having another COBRA meeting this afternoon, and a COBRA meeting is basically an emergency response meeting to a situation. It's called COBRA because it takes place in Cabinet Office Briefing Room A, and it will be of government ministers, the police, and other members of the criminal justice system who will get together to discuss what happened last night, but also to discuss what happens going forward. This is by no means over, and the police and the government would be short-sighted to think that this is the end of it. Now, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Mark Rowley, so he's in charge of the police here in London, he has said that he's pleased with how it went last night. He said we put thousands of officers onto the street, and I think the show of force from the police and, frankly, the show of unity from communities together defeated the challenges that we have seen. So that's been the response from the Prime Minister and head of the Metropolitan Police.
All right, thank you so much, AIA Hagen, for giving us the update, and we're going to be looking forward to seeing how it pans out. Once again, thanks for joining us. Now to business. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, has stated that the federal government is looking at granting outright tax breaks to companies employing more staff. The minister also said that the federal government will grant more import duty suspension for certain goods in a bid to curb the rise in inflation. Now, he stated that the measures are part of the Inflation Reduction Act to be signed by the president in a matter of weeks. According to the minister, the fiscal measures are geared towards reducing the cost of production for businesses, which has increased due to the weakness of the exchange rate and other policies introduced by the current administration.
It's actually going to be a fantastic idea. The fact of the matter is that many Nigerian businesses are small and medium enterprises. About something like 96% of all businesses in this country are SMEs. They account for 84% of all Nigerians who have a job right now, and they contribute 48% right to GDP. So we're talking about a substantial amount right of Nigeria's economy that could potentially stand to benefit right from this. The key thing to recognize about tax incentives is that there are a number of taxes and tax reliefs, right, which are currently specifically geared towards small businesses. But above those brackets, right, the tax burden dramatically increases. And that's historically acted as a disincentive for Nigerian businesses to grow and expand, both on products and offerings, but also in terms of employment, right? There are certain charges, for example, that businesses are mandated to pay above a certain employment threshold, usually between 25 and 50%. So instituting some of these incentives, which would basically reduce the burden, not only of compliance, but the top line burden, right, for paying taxes, right, for businesses in an environment of 40+% inflation, in an environment where the currency, right, has lost its value by more than 100%. I think that it's a generally good idea.
Now to sports. Nigeria's top 800-meter runner, Dose Ibadin, has been eliminated from the 2024 Paris Olympics after failing to advance from the repechage round of the men's event. Now, Ibadin, who holds the Nigerian national record in the 800-meter, finished in 7th place in his repechage hit with a time of 1 hour, 49 minutes and 9 seconds, well off the pace needed to secure one of the automatic qualifying spots for the semi-finals. The repechage round provides athletes who did not automatically qualify from a hit a final chance to progress to the next round. However, Ibadin was unable to capitalize as Botswana's Ketobogile Hengura took the sole automatic qualifying spot from Ibadin's hit with a time of 1 hour, 45 minutes and 52 seconds. And that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our major stories. Now, we told you that security operatives allegedly raided NLC headquarters and carted away documents. We also did mention that Plateau and Kaduna State have relaxed curfew. And finally, we told you that tight security has been enforced in Kenya ahead of new demonstration. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Also follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, StarTimes, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Blessings Mosugu.